Hello and Hello and welcome to the airport domain session as part of the Building Smart International Summit, Marrakesh 2024. Thank you for joining. My name is Laura and I will be your moderator today. Today's session title is Airport Entity Project Update. The speakers for this session are shown on the screen. The session is scheduled to last 90 minutes, including time for questions at the end. The session is being recorded and will be made available in the replay session of the event as soon as possible. Before I hand over to the speakers, I would like to remind you that this is a hybrid event. For online attendee, your microphone will be remain muted for the duration of this session. If you wish to make a comment or ask a question, please use the chat box in the control panel. For the attendee here in the room, please keep the background noise to a minimum. And if you wish to make a comment or a question, please raise your hand and use a microphone. I would like to bring to your attention that buildingSMART is committed to ensuring that participation in the development of standards is unrestricted and the process for their adoption is transparent, and standards that are developed do not favor any particular provider and are open, non-binding, and accessible to all. Please take note of our antitrust code of conduct. Now I would like to hand over to the Airport Entity Project team.
Welcome. Does it work?
Oh, you have to
Welcome. We're very pleased.
The button. You have to turn the button at the bottom. Is it going? Oops.
Yeah, you could hear you.
Yeah, it was okay.
Sure.
That was a rehearsal. Again, welcome to everyone. Large numbers, so I think we managed this year to get a lot of people here. Thank you very much for being here. And you see here the airport domain. Let's start with the first slide. As you well know, we are working on airports, and we have within the airport domain a number of people, and if you'd like to volunteer, join us, no problem. But we are working on airports. Airports are a complicated micro environment in which all kinds of disciplines comes together. I just was visiting the meeting on the other side of the building where they talk about all kinds of very complex materials like classifications, ontologies. This is also part of that same story, but this is more a hand-on story. What we try, because we are working as we are part of the airport domain, quite some years on airports. And so what we have seen, what we've noticed, that there are so many stakeholders, so many information, there's so much which needs to grow together, not only for a design perspective, a maintenance perspective, but for the whole life cycle. And that's changing. And there is one big thing on airports where the owner also operates the facility. So that means that there's a direct interest of the owner operator in that we achieve a well-developed information system.
Is it easier when the owner involved in
I think the difficulty or easiness is not in stake in this sense, but there's an interest. And when there's an interest, it's immediately there is also some support. And that's, if you could argue that, it makes it more easy. Yeah, really. So, airports is a connection of all kinds of transport. I just said that it's a complicated environment. We call it as a transport city. All kinds of different streams come together with their own needs, and with their own what they bring there. And as we're all aware, it needs to be a sustainable way we bring people together. we use this in a sustainable way. And this dynamic city needs us to be dynamic. So we must bring everything together in all kind of environments, and we must bring it in these different categories, like the operations, like the environment, but also the finance, and there's the planning. Of course, we also need the quality who is determined quite strictly by IATA, ICAO, and other organizations. So that means there is a lot of input from others, where we all have to bring it together, and we always need to be dynamic in that sense. There's one thing, how can you bring that together? And that's the reason why myself, our company is NACO RSDHP, but also Schiphol and also Vienna, came together because there are so many things which we need a clear language of this. I saw a number of presentations using the Tower of Babel, where they have different languages. What we try to achieve from all different aspects, the different visions, to get things together. So we try to get a same language. So for that reason, we use the buildingSMART environment, where we can bring it all together and use the same language. And in that language and in this environment, we have to bring these all kind of microcosmoses together. We, of course, there is in the center the operational element, which you can call the enterprise data hub. There, everything is happening. But in that area, in that part where everything comes together, all kind of influence coming from all other parts, like application. And if you will see, you can immediately translate that to information transmission. So immediately it starts with, there is a central part, there are some add-ins, it must be better, the data must be enriched, the airport must be enriched, and at the end, we must maintain that information. We have to maintain it. So you see the similarities with this. And yes, we are here at buildingSMART. So there you see, there is an enabler. And what we have seen, and we use that quite often, that is an enabler for speaking the same language. And therefore, I think this is an image which you have seen quite often. It has to do something with standards, and you will see and you will hear how we, in the airport domain, look into these different topics like IFC, BCF, IDS, you know all the abbreviations, and it must therefore be enabled by the software vendors to help us using these kind of things. And this, therefore, it's a shift in how we perceive the whole environment. We need software vendors, we need people who are using it, and we also need clients. So if we come together, and of course you have heard it more often, trust, how you can bring that together, that will help us. And therefore, at the end, we will have a clear information system, what we can share with one another, and what everyone can use at its best. That is all nice words at the end. I mean, that's what you see, a lot of strategic thinking, but how does it work effectively? Because the team is quite some years together, we are working on, especially at Schiphol, to see how that works. So what we said, how can we look at these information containers and how can we connect them? We have to start showing who's responsible for what. What is general information? What is information what relates to airports only? What relates to electrical domains? So we must be clear on who owns what, who produces what, and who brings it all together. When I use the word owning, everyone says, but the data is applied. Of course it is. But owning, I mean, it is who is sharing it, who is enriching it, how it brought together. And then you see, we try to make it more visual. This is central Schiphol Plaza, where you see it's mainly an architectural building. So all the regulations, the IFC models come from that general IFC schema. But there are particular areas which relate to particular domains. For example, you see the blue one. We have said this is particularly on airports where you have these kind of information boards. You could always argue, but there's also a train station, there are other areas as well. I know, but at least we wanted to make a start, bring it to our own and say what kind of information do we require. And that's something you will hear today. There are a number of entities which we took out and said these entities, we, let's say, own the information. We start building on the information and therefore we need to define the information.
Are you the principal architect of this building too?
This building was built in 1988, so I'm sorry, I just arrived at Schiphol only at 1992. So this just after when I came in here. Yeah. But all the other things, as you may know, there's a bus station coming on. There are some other things we are building at the moment. Yeah. And by having this, we have a zoom in to show that there are particular areas, particular parts, particular objects, what we bring together, where we try to enrich with the information requirements. And today we will show you how we do that.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the backstory of airports and information management. But what are we doing in the airport domain right now? What is our focus? And that is the Airport Entities Project. We've been working on it for a couple of years now. Kind of what Gerard is saying, we all need to work together. We need to talk the same language, speak the same language. And one of the challenges today is that there is just not a clear and consistent schema for airport-specific objects. Question, what are those airport-specific objects, and are they really that specific? So that's a lot of discussion that's been going on. But the Entities Project focuses on the creation of clear agreements within the airport community, so that we can work with the necessary parts of the schema, so just focusing on the airport's specific objects. Just to give you a few examples, I'm not going to read them all, but we have de-icing. I don't think there's de-icing anywhere else. I hope not. Maybe for trains. No clue. We have automated border control reader. That's an example. Is it really that airport specific? No. I think they are probably at ports, maybe at railway stations, at international places, but they are crucial for an airport. So we did include them, included as an airport specific object. We have the passenger bridge. Also, they are airport specific, but I think they are also at ports, maybe. So it's questionable, but again, crucial for airports. We can't live without them, so we did include them in the airport entities project. This is the working group that's been working on the project for the last 4 years now. Maya used to be working for Schiphol. She's an independent right now, currently on maternity leave, but she has been a huge asset to the project. Myself working for Schiphol Airports, Carl Fitzpatrick, Auckland Airport. We have weekly meetings, and he has been helping out a lot with the project and the progress. We have Mike, who is here today, will be presenting later on in this presentation. Christoph is online. He was supposed to be here, but due to some personal reasons he couldn't. So Morten is presenting from Vienna Airport. And Gianluca is also not here today, but also been working with us on the project, and hopefully he'll be at the next summit. And so basically, this is just a working group, but there's a lot more people involved within the airport domain. So we are really doing it together. It's not just the 5 or 6 of us trying to make this work. So there's, within the steering committee, a lot of people involved. We meet every month, 2-3 months, to kind of give an update to see if we can get feedback. So we really are connected, and I think that is the most important part of building SMART, but also specifically here at the airport, domain because we really cannot do it alone. So what have we achieved so far? Ooh, bad quality, sorry. We started in 2020, as in we started it. The project actually got introduced before that in 2018, if I'm correct, Regina? 16 is when the IFC airport was introduced. And I think the airport room was introduced in 2016. However, we reintroduced the topic in 2020. We looked at the technical developments within buildingSMART. We decided, or in collaboration with buildingSMART, that we're not going to be extending the schema because of all of the challenges and that you have to wait. So we're now working on enriching the buildingSMART data dictionary. So we really looked at the scope of the project and changed things a little bit back in 2020. So we redefined the project scope, wrote a one-pager, wrote the project proposal again, and then used that to work on throughout the years. And so going to 2023, 2024, we created a list of airport entities. So we got input from Schiphol Airport, Mako, Vienna Airport, Auckland Airport, Finavia, China Aviation, and I'm missing one more, I can't remember, but we gathered a list of airport-specific objects, took out all of the duplicates, and created a mapping to IFC, the workflow you'll see in the later slides. And we created surveys to really get more feedback from big specialists, anyone that knows anything about airports. And we got a lot of responses from those surveys. So that was very exciting. We started with baggage handling, and I think we got around 65 responses, whether people agreed or disagreed with the mapping that we proposed, the naming that we choose. So that was good. We've been working on the baggage handling as kind of a focus. So before moving on to the other surveys that we have for the terminal, airsides, security, and a few other ones, we decided to just focus on baggage, go through the whole process, and see what we run into, and kind of use that as input for going through all of the other surveys. This last year, in 2024, we kind of came to the conclusion that the airport objects were not enough. We also need to look at properties, for example. So as an example, we have in baggage, we have a chute, and a chute could be spiral or parallel. So one of the suggestions was we need to introduce two new entities, two new objects, which we kind of came to the conclusion that we are not introducing two new objects. We're going to introduce one new object or a property, whether it's spiral or parallel. So we are working on getting input from baggage specialists. Quite difficult, I can tell you, because they like to talk a lot about how baggage works, which is very interesting, but I just want to know properties. But there's been a lot of conversation with people from Schiphol Airport's baggage specialists. I know Carl has been talking to his organization from Auckland Airport. So it's been quite a journey. It's been good. It's been very interesting. So here is the workflow, and unfortunately you can't really read it that well, but these are the different surveys that we send out. So we have the terminal, we have civil and airfields, we have NavAid and meteorological equipment, we have airport-specific security systems and passenger control, and then we have baggage on the top. Each survey had a list of airport-specific objects. At first, we just created the mapping to IFC4 and IFC 4.3. But taking a step back, like I said, we concluded that we also needed properties. So for each object, we're looking into potential properties that are needed. And then we're also looking at using that within the buildingSMART data dictionary. So we created an IFC airport domain, which we were told by Arthur, we need to change the name because it's not IFC airports, it's going to be classification. So that name is going to be changed in the future. But we will be, or it is added to the airport dictionary at this point with the extension. And yeah, we'll show you an example later on of how to create an IDS from the BSTD within Revit and some plugins, because we did actually get it to work.
Okay, thank you. Today we want I just told about the airport domain and about the airport data dictionary. And today we wanted to show you how you can make use of the airport data dictionary and of the OpenBIM standards. You all know this slide from buildingSMART, which shows a workflow on how to use all these great OpenBIM standards and services. And based on this, we created a workflow. You want to be able to read it, but I'll explain it. It's on the top, you see the client requirements. We translate that into an IDS using the input from the data dictionary, airport data dictionary. After we've done that, we can create IFCs, populate the information of the airport data dictionary into the IFC to get the information standardized. After that, we go through a process with the IDS to validate the IFC. And if there are issues in the IFC, a BCF comes out and the modeler can process the issues, goes through the funnel again until it's all corrected. And after that, we know we have a validated IFC and it's standardized. Then we can start to check the content. So we can translate the part of the program of requirement into another IDS. And that's the other yellow thing you see there. It's the checking of the content instead of the standardization. Well, the same process goes. It goes into BCF if there are issues, it goes through the funnel again, and at the end we deliver the IFCs to the client, and the client can also use the IDS to make sure that the information is as agreed. And here, what you see here is really how to put it in practice. What software did we use? Of course, you can use all kinds of software because it's OpenBIM. But I'm going to show you a bit on how we can do it. It starts with the information requirements. We used a tool called BIMQ. With BIMQ, we populated the data dictionary itself, and we created an IDS. After that, we use a plugin created by NACO, by a colleague of us called Schleizan. Created a great plugin to connect to Revit, to connect Revit to the buildingSMART data dictionary, to the airport domain, and pushing the information into your elements on Revit. It is important to know that that's an NACO plugin, and there are also other plugins. There's one for Civil 3D, which is from Open AEC, and I think there's one from DigiBase for Revit, also open source you can use, which basically does the same thing. After populating the model with the information from the BSDD, create an IFC, and we go into Solibri, make use of the IDS to validate the information again, just like I told in the last slide. If it's not good, we push it into BIM call-up using BCF server, BCF information. It goes back to the modeler until it's corrected, and then it goes as validated IFC output to the client. You can go forward.
Oh, sorry.
And here's a video where you see the whole process. We pre-recorded, so it's the old software tools how we did it. And I'll try to talk you through it. So this BIMQ, here we captured all the classifications, the properties, and the relations to IFC to be able to publish towards the BSDD, airport domain. You see the properties. Once we created all the content here, standardized everything, we go to that button, and here's an exporter that pushes the information into a JSON file. And as you might know, the BSDD to populate it uses JSON, so there's a file. And the other thing is the IDS. BIMQ is also able to create an IDS file, so we also did that. I think it's good to know this is the XML of the IDS file. It's good to know that, of course, the end user will not have access to the BIMQ, they will only have access to the BSDD. But using, for example, ACA software, you can also create an IDS based on the BSDD. Now here you see the result, which is the airport domain in the SVD. You see the project, you see classifications of all the entities. I will focus on baggage handling for now. If you go into there are all kind of relations with IFC. There's properties connected to the entity, into the classification, and we will use this to standardize the information in our models. So I think we're going to read it now. Yeah, this is a baggage handling model, and on the right you see a plugin where you log in to select the data dictionary, get all the classifications and the properties, and below there's a button to assign all this information onto your elements. So now we log in, we choose, could be any domain, but we choose the airport one, of course. We choose the object we want to enrich with standardized information, choose the right classification, pushes classification relations to IFC and all the properties into the model. And here on the left you see all the parameters created by the airport data dictionary and plugin. I think the next step is now to populate the parameters. Of course, we could do it already with the BSD, but in this case we done it manually. Depends on your need. After putting in all the information into the parameters, we export it. Let's see, I put some more information here. Now we're going to export it into IFC.
Signing is for the buildingSMART service.
Yes, exactly. The sign is for the buildingSMART service. One note is you do need a user-defined property set for it to map the parameters from Revit to the properties of IFC. And that's what you just saw. Now we can go into Solibri or any other tool and use the IDS to check if the information is compliant. So here again you see the baggage handling model. I think we're going to update the model now with this new IFC. On the right, you see all the classifications. And here you see the classification again. You see the IFC entity that was populated by the plugin by BSDD. You see all the user-defined properties also within the IFC model. Here you see the rule set of Solibri to use the IDS. So load in the IDS, quite simple. And run the IDS, run the rule set, get all the stuff that's not compliant. And there you see, here's one example, the capacity seems to be missing as a property. So we make an issue of that. After making the issue, we can send the information towards the DCF server, in this case, buildingSMART. Let's synchronize it. Yeah, now we go to buildingSMART. Here you see the model as well. You see the issues. You can assign it towards people. You can put a deadline on it, and go back to Revit. Use a plugin called the DCF Manager to see the same issues, with the intention of modeler adding the correct data that's missing, and we're creating an IFC. So again, an IFC, we produce an IFC, but this time everything goes well. It's completely compliant. We can deliver it as well as an output towards the client. That's the workflow we've been using. Yeah, thank you. Here's the conclusion from your side.
Ook mine, have a question.
Yeah.
We use now the macro-based 3D
Plugin, yeah.
plugin based on Rapid.
Yes.
Then the modeler has put all the information in the model.
Yeah.
What are plans in the future? Are you using other software, or do you call them plugin built on other program? Is for better connect with the engineers and the project managers?
Yeah, that's a good question. We were creating one for Rapid and Civil 3D. Gentleman sitting right there also created one for Civil 3D and it's open source, so we have to check if we can help each other or something. We're also thinking if SketchUp would be important, but you can also think of GIS and all kind of other platforms. I think, yeah, it depends on your use case and your need. But what we've built is kind of a core layer which should be workable for all software, and then a layer on top which is software specific.
Okay, yeah, because these days that's also for Trimble Connect.
I know, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And one from we're in contact with them, and we're discussing on how to work together or how we're gonna. Because I think we started simultaneously without knowing. Yeah, and now we know. So, yeah.
So the conclusion for us was, when I started, we want to have an environment where everything talks together, where it's proven to be right, and therefore we had a discussion during lunch. If you trust the information, what's there at the end, and we do it together. We always use the word, we use it in a Nike Tinder way. I'm not allowed to tell it, but there was a bit of a joke in between. A Nike Tinder way. So Nike, just do it, Tinder together. We just do it together. And that's what you see. We didn't invent it. We wrote it down. How you check and recheck, and then at the end have a validated proof. And therefore we have an information. We start on information and content, and at the end it needs to be reversed, and it must be reliant. Well, then we have at the end this the yellow building, which is clear in its information and how it will be used. But now, what next?
What are you doing? It's kind of a.
No, this is the reason why we do this presentation with everyone. Because everyone works on it. Everyone thinks there's only one speaker, and that's not the case. We all work on it now. It's on you, Elizabeth.
Thanks. Yeah, so kind of looking ahead. What do we need, who do we need, and why do we need it? I think is a very important question we need to ask ourselves, especially from the airport domain, the projects, but also future projects that I know some of my colleagues here are eager to start working on once we finish the airport entities projects. So we kind of looked at who do we need to move forward. We need other airports to join the airport domain, the steering committee. We need their input, we need their expertise to grow as airport domain, but in buildingSMART. But we also need other asset owners. The last few summits we've had sessions with the railway domain, with the infra domain, the electrical domain, because the image that Gerard just showed was the Plaza terminal. It's not just an airport. There's so many different disciplines that all come together within one model. So we also need other asset owners and to work with them. We need designers, engineers, and contractors. Those are people that are part of the supply chain that we work with on a daily basis to renovate airports, build new airports, anything. But we also need software vendors, because without software vendors, we can't do anything. So we also need their input. Last, but I don't think least, manufacturers. They're not really an area that we've looked into too much yet, but Martin is very excited about the manufacturers part from the product domain, for example. So that's one of the things that we should be looking into in the future. So what do we need from all of these people? I'm not going to read everything that we see on here, but just a few things that come back from each party is obviously feedback and implementation. We all need to be working with it. We need experience from all of the different people in the supply chain that could help with this. We need to identify the shared requirements. We need to categorize the products more specifically. We need to identify the information requirements throughout the whole supply chain, and not just identify them, but also accept them and work together with them. Because right now, from an airport perspective, and Ariane is in the audience as a colleague, it's still pointing fingers at each other, like not taking responsibility for the information requirements that are needed in a specific phase of the asset life cycle. And why do we need it? Well, you've seen it in a previous slide as well. We need to create one common language. We're losing a lot of money, a lot of time identifying objects within the model between all of the different parties that are involved. And I think everyone's goal in the end is data continuity and seamless data integration. We all need to work with the data throughout the supply chain, reuse the data, and update the data. So I think that's the most important one, and we cannot do it in silos. So we really need to start working together, identifying everything within the schema or within the VCD as a classification. I don't care how we do it, but it just needs to be one language that we can all understand, that we all agree on, and can use to work throughout the whole supply chain. Martin?
Yeah, I'm going to take it.
So the next part is kind of having some use cases identified, and kind of focusing, also looking ahead. For now, we've just focused on the projects, the airport entities projects. But as I said, a lot of people that we are working with are eager to start working on future projects. And a big one is the operational base, because Spirit mentioned operational base is also part of the asset owner. So that is something that we need to take into account when working on the projects. And so we identify a few use cases based on regulations from EASA, for example.
Yeah, thank you. So we've talked a lot about the common language and data continuity. And of course, we need that for the construction, for the planning and construction of the facilities of the airport. But in the end, the longest phase is the operational phase. So we as an airport, as Vienna Airport, demand the data to be present in our operational systems. And this is something that we need to get in a very early stage. So here we see the phases when we start with the planning and construction. We have data requirements, information requirements, we go over to the operational phase. So we have to get the input from the asset owners, from the facility managers in a very early stage to have it with our data flow, to have it in the information model at the time of handover into the operational phase. So this is the moment when we hand over the information from the operation, from the planning and construction phase, from the project information model (PIM) into the AIM, to the asset information model, and we have, of course, our requirements. We need at the moment a hybrid approach, because a lot of operation systems still use DWG, so 2D drawings, for their information source. So at this moment, we still depend on the 2D drawings. So we demand both the model and the drawings. The drawings do have to be the derived product from the model. We do not want to have redundancies. We don't want the plans to exist in a disconnected way. So this is very important. Next. Another use case is then when we get a new building that we need to reconstruct it. This is something that often happens, especially at airports with this long endurance of buildings from various areas. They need to be reconstructed, adopted, maybe get a new use, or just have to be updated with the equipment. So we have a running operation system based on the asset information model with all the data inside. But we need to renew this data. So we hand over the IFC files on the information that is important, like plans or models, to the planners, and they can work on this data to update our own model. What we need here, and this is crucial, is the interoperability between the softwares. So the IFC schema or the IFC file is able to hand over the information to the BIM authoring tools, but they have to interpret it. It's not yet working with all the softwares that are available. So often we have to repeat steps while replanning with existing models. And this is something that breaks the data continuity. This is something that needs to be included, so the design transfer model view definition. Next.
I have a question about it.
Yeah, wait. Hold on, please.
Now you see that the AEM is follow product from BIM, but is it not another extract from your BIM? You have your BIM model during the process, and BIM is an extract, and an AEM is an extract of that.
The BIM is the methodology. So we talked about the asset information model as a model based on IFC files, and the asset in the operational phase. So it's, of course, it is BIM in a way. So the PIM, the project information model, is only for the construction phase. So when we work on a new construction planning and construction, or when we are in the phase of planning and erecting a new building, we have a specific model, but that's completely disconnected to the asset information model, which operates the airport, on which the airport is working.
Yeah.
Or the game will be more.
It was a good one.
One question on the asset information model is that like one server where all objects that came from IFC are merged into one.
Yeah, it's a
Kind of, and you extract certain slides of the building for the project.
that's right. So we have different assembly of models. They're interconnecting, and they make up the whole airport. It's not up in Vienna. We don't have that yet. So we are just starting with it. But new projects are always requiring or demanding IC models to bring in the data, and we try to extend this model by remodeling the existing asset. And we do it partly. So whenever there's a need of information, we start modeling a specific area of the airport. Sometimes only the spaces, because they carry a lot of information. So we've got a complete model automatically derived from the DWGs for the whole airport, but just for the spaces. But when we have the demand or when we need a new building and we need to deliver inventory data for the planners to plan on, then we take out the specific part of the airport and deliver to the planners.
But if you have 500 IC files merged into one AIM,
Yeah, they are not merged.
Download like the existing part of the corner in the building where you want to start the project.
Yeah, it's not one IFC file in the end. It's separated IFC files, of course. So we take the data that is required from the specific area, and we, of course, it's not IFC files only. We have drawings, we have details, we have point clouds. So this is how we operating. We will later see that.
But then the actual question, the
Yes.
IC files, what was delivered from the project before, what was maintained in the asset information model, if you take apart the file or not a whole file, you get an original file or only a part, because to divide ICs into two pieces, you're losing the structure of all the relationships.
We do not cut out pieces of the IFC files. We could do that. Of course, we can run the script and take out only a specific part. That's possible.
Okay, so you update the IC as a file also in the AIM, like to update them while using it, and then you have the most actual.
Yeah, it's the idea of updating the existing IFC files. Yeah. But this is something that is not yet in practice because the transfer of the information from a new IFC file into existing IFC files without losing global identifier, for example, it's not that seamless as we wish it would be. But that's got to be the destination. That's got to be the goal. The data continuity and the seamless integration. So here we have the use case number 3, the partial reconstruction. So the problem is that we hand over in the second use case we hand over the IC file to planners and they recreate a complete new model. Here we just want a part of the building to be recreated, and we need to take over just those bits and pieces of the model that they work on for our asset information model. And again, here we have the problem of integrating the new parts into the existing IC. But this is a need. This is something that needs to be solved because reconstructing, refurbishing, this is, I would say, 90% of our work. It's not the erection of new buildings. This happens every 10 years for great buildings, but the small reconstruction works that are crucial for the operation. Next. Yeah. Yeah, have the mic.
I think this use case was OIR. I'm from GA, China. We're using ISO standards 19650 to define our work guides and confirm our AM, PM, and OIR, EIR. So we also establish a standard results library including date templates, and data dictionary based on BSDD. So this project ensures efficiently information data exchange and management, developing our project smoothly. So I think OIR in this use case is very important.
Yeah, okay, definitely, yeah. So, as I mentioned, it's not only IFC files that we work with. Building information modeling also consists of many other sources of data. So, for example, we have got the EASA demanding specific data. We have, for example, we've brought 2 examples. One is the GIS-based security zone or OLS check, and the other is the slope check for airfields. First, we are going to the slope check. So next, we have the demand to provide data and to prove that our slopes for aprons, runways, and taxiways do comply with the EASA demands. We check this with terrestrial laser scans, and this data goes back into our asset information model. So it's not yet clear whether we will bring it into GIS or if we really have IFC models to carry this data. But at least we have the possibility and we need to deliver this data. Next. So here you can see how we do it. We have the very professional laser scanner from the Austrian brand Riegel, high precision terrestrial laser. It's mounted on a vehicle, and this is scanning the whole asset. We used it also for indoor scanning. Now we have got the new model, which is even lighter and faster.
Without the car.
But without the car. Yeah, you can see the analysis for the slopes. So on the next topic that we use GIS, we use it for a lot of things, but to bring together the topic of GIS and BIM is to check our planned buildings against the obstacle limitation services. So you all know the demands from ICAO and then has from EASA for the security zones for approach and departure. and the demand that no obstacle may disturb those surfaces. Next. And here you can set it to go. It's a movie, a small movie clip. Oh no, that was too fast. Yeah. So this is the national interpretation of the security zones. It's, as a regulation, it's only 2D, and I took it into the third dimension because it's quite complex, and we do only have 2 runways. So for airfields with more runways, it's even more complicated how those security zones or the obstacle limitation zones interact. And I put in, as an example, a small tower to see how it disturbs the obstacle limitation surfaces. And this is something with a very defined, highly defined geo-positioning of the building, the IFC model, which is possible since IFC 4 and now IFC 4.3 even better. You can bring in those objects, those models into the GIS environment. So here you can see the small tower disturbing the transitional zones. Next. And I just put in those 2 entities of the IFC schema. IFC projected CRS, I think many of you may know it, otherwise I'm just going to explain shortly. It's the possibility to map the Cartesian coordinate system into a projected coordinate system with an EPSG code. Next. And we have the IFC map conversion, which is giving information about the shift of the origin point so that the model really comes in at the right place. And this works quite fine. Next. And this is unfortunately a little bit overlighted depiction of the tower. In green down there, this is the part that would be allowed on the blue surfaces. This is the not allowed area to build according to EASA or ICAO regulations. Next. Yeah, okay. So I'm handing over to Ariska again.
So, coming to the end of the presentation, we kind of started very high over airports. What are they? Why are they a little bit difficult? And why we standardize to the airport entities projects, what we've been doing, to kind of looking ahead what direction we want to move towards with some pretty good use cases. And then coming to our conclusion, taking all of that into account. And I am going to kind of read them because I think they're pretty good. But to start out, we concluded that we need to improve airport operations and asset management, and that all starts with information and data. I think that's kind of the key message of the whole presentation. We need structured data, structured information requirements, and we need it for both operations and asset management. We need to look into a single source of truth. Because it really enhances information management. Right now, there's too many different silos with data, with different information requirements, causing a lot of discussions between all of the different parties throughout the supply chain. We must strive for better communication between all of those different stakeholders, based on policies such as European requirements, as Martin just showed, and other guidelines that are required for airports. And I think this one really is key, communication between all the different stakeholders, playing a role in building airports. We need to optimize the streamlining of processes based on open standards. We had a session this morning, the ISO 19650. I think it's very important to look into those kind of standards and use them throughout your project phases. We need better collaboration in the aviation industry throughout all of the phases of the asset lifecycle. A lot of parties, we have designers, we have consultants, we have contractors. We usually, as an airport, hire people for maintenance. There's so many different parties working for an airport, and then we have all of the different disciplines. It's really like a small city. Why it's so important that we all need to collaborate together. And then last but not least, we need a well-defined asset management system in order to request information that is both structured and interpretable by machines and humans. So that's really what we're trying to do with the airport entities projects for the part that is focused on the airport specific objects. And we need you guys, so come join and help us. That's it, thank you.
Quick question regarding, I saw that you had classifications around the train station or the data being fed into a screen for the airport information coming in and different others like that. I'm wondering if there's other considerations about real-time information coming in, IoT data, especially weather data, as it's probably the biggest impact on airport traffic. Or is that being considered for the future? IoT real-time?
Yeah. But in Schiphol is definitely a discussion. So I'm guessing they will be use cases that we can definitely be looking into for future projects within the airport domain.
Yes, so that's a very good question, because everyone says you must have a digital twin, because that's where it is. We're at NARCO, we're also working on digital twin, but for us it proves that we're on the right track, that we're using the right method, the right workflow, and the right language to get together. And then you get, as an additional thing, you get something, and that we call a digital twin. But maybe we call it something different in the future. But it also enables you, and that's the reason why these conferences are so important, to see that there are already thoughts how to do it, how to connect them. For example, we're working on the airport of Aruba, where we are quite fortunate to either design the new building and design also the civil parts. So that made us and then we have the information. We designed it on Revit, we do it on the civil 3D, and we can combine this information to one model, which is based on our workflow, and therefore it's the ultimate check if we do it right. We can now bring that into a format for a digital twin and connect IoT to that. So it's a no-brainer, but it means that you need to work according to the set of rules, both language and workflow. And then you get it for free, because it's so easy.
I have something.
One second. Sorry, I need a microphone.
Sorry. Regarding the IoT and inevitably the digital twin question, I'm Richard Kelly from buildingSMART International. My view, I think it's discussion, is that as organizations start to use open workflows in ways that you've described, because the data becomes then more trusted, people who are doing the investment are making a decision about, should I put back indication devices on my critical assets? And is it worth the cost of doing it? Because in 10 years' time, will I still be able to access the information that back indication devices is giving me? As it becomes more trusted that the data will be available because of interoperability, because of workflows, people will start to make decisions to put back indication devices on. And that way, the real-time data monitoring of a portfolio of assets starts to grow organically. The question about whether that data will be available is yes, if using open workflows as possible. We can actually yes, it will be available in the same way as the information about what a building is made from, what's behind that wall, etc. will be available. And the other thing to bear in mind, I think, is interesting, as you know, is that at buildingSMART International and our product domain, we now have a collaboration with the Industrial Twin Association. So that's going to be helping us to understand about products that need back identification devices on with that association. And also interfaces with other big passenger interfaces and exchanges such as stations. We have a similar piece of work going on to what airports are doing in stations, railway stations, others. So all this starts to join together, so you get a proper interoperable city. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Maybe I can add to that, is that in that same project, we also, if we have the data on where is what, we can bring new services. We are a commercial enterprise. We need to earn some money to do this. So by having this, we expand our services. For example, we have at the moment in development RCR tool. So there's a regulation that you have to define how much water is on the runway. How do you do that? You can go there, check it, or have drones or whatsoever, but you also can use AI. You can check with weather reports if it's feasible, it will be there. And then you can make live connection with measuring machines, which we have done, and have AI to check whether it's in the weather report, if it will be there. And it is reliable, and it is sold. So that means that we are extending our services, and we still have, and profit is not a bad word, but we still have energy oxygen to live on. So it is not a way if we do it. We need to do it, so when we do it.
Yes, I'm adding something. I'm taking from positive that we are working with Korea Airports Corporation. In case of Korea Airports Corporation, they already made the scheme of the for airport whole area. So the real-time data, for example, the weather and also the wind or things like that is real-time data is coming, and on the digital model, digital twin, the users can see the weather information real time, and also there is some IoT information from the noise checking system around the runways in the buildings. The data is coming real time directly. So the important thing is to make the open based digital, and that kind of information can be easily linked to that model, and it is very easy to visualize that kind of information. So the standardization of the model and information is most important. And when you ask that the big models can be integrated with one, it is technically it is possible. So in case of GAC digital twin, the domestic terminal, the size of the model is almost 10 gigabytes, and it is 5 or 6 models are integrated. So that kind of things can be easily displayed on the web page. So the things to explain this all is possible, and yes, I want to say that.
I do like your part of everything is possible if you to add it to the model, if you have a good model. I think for Schiphol Airport, that's our biggest challenge is we have an environment that is old. The terminal, I think our oldest building is from 1960. So a lot of data is missing. We have a lot of discussions about what is an asset for both the project phases as the operational phase. So that's the discussions that we're having about the model. So I totally agree that you can use a lot of IoT and link it to your existing models if you have a good structured standardized model. And I think even in the discussions within the working group, when we're talking, Christoph is online right now, he's in the call, and with Carl and with Maya, they're already like 5 steps ahead, which is really cool because there's so many great ideas. But I keep having to call them back, like take a few steps back, we need to get that base ready first before we can build on that. And especially for airports or maybe other people that are working for organizations with buildings or I don't know, railways that are older, I think it's something that a lot of people are running into right now.
So we're really the use case of bringing open standards to life. I think I absolutely agree.
Gerard, do you agree with the risk that things from the 1960s are old?
I'm from 64, so you draw your own conclusion.
I've got a question about for both you and Vietnam. It's about supply chain. You work a lot with different consultants and contractors, small or big, even operators, all of that. And looking at these workflows, and obviously it evolves probably from time to time. And do you get a lot of pushback, cost, or from your suppliers? And as an asset owner, what are you doing to enable your supply chain to come with you on this journey? Or are they ahead of you and they're all awesome? I'm actually more interested in the smaller ones, not the tier ones.
You can use it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would like to answer on that. So, for example, within the
erection phase or planning phase, when we have the demand for our information, when we need the planning companies to support us with the demanded models. We have, of course, our information requirements. They can't deliver it sometimes, or the quality is very poor. So we try to find workarounds to help them, because we know it's not always, maybe it's like skill, maybe it's like a, I don't know. I want to guess about it, but we have this problem. Then we figure out how we can ease the way for them to deliver the data, because they have to. It's their duty, it's their contract. So, for example, we can agree on specific keys, like naming conventions within the entities, and we develop a script to read in Excel files, database, whatever, and have a primary key connection to this database or to the Excel file. And so they only have to deliver the specific key, like a name, like a code, whatever, in the entity, and they can provide all the rest via their beloved Excel files. And then we write it into the IC file. It's there with our predefined data structure that we also do on BIMQ. So we have a data structure platform, and we deliver this data structure in advance. So they know what they have to, but maybe my colleague Tina can answer or will have an input as well.
Okay. I think the biggest problem we got with the contractors right now, when we're building the south part of 203 and another building, is that the subcontractors, because they are not included within the contracts. So normally I would say the main contract we got at least one of the projects is absolutely capable of delivering the information requirements we have within the models. Subcontractors, we have no control about them, and then we need the workaround for the script. Easy like that. Not easy for me and the management.
It's not complicated.
Don't do anything else.
I mean, this is my question: is how do you bring the whole supply chain with us? The tier one contractor, easy,
Yeah.
but it's the other subbies and
Yeah.
you know.
But right now, I think the workaround is even better, because we can react with our system much faster than any subcontractor can, because within the airport, yeah, things are changing as well. The requirements are changing almost weekly, because people got to know the benefits of the model, and they want more.
That's the Timmy part. Together.
Well, I also think it's not just the data structure part or it's also your processes and your contracts. So Stuple has outsourced all of its maintenance to 3 main contractors divided into 6 different parcels. So their requirement for maintaining all of our assets, including information management. So we're very reliant on them. So if we did not cover it in one of the contracts, then they just refuse to do certain parts. And that's for both maintenance, but it's also for the project. So if it's not in the contract or in our information delivery manual, then they will just say, well, we're not doing it unless you're paying us more. And then another big one is they use the current data quality as a reason to not update the data once they start working in a specific area. So they claim like, hey, well, Stuple, you did not deliver us the existing data because we didn't have it. So that gives us a reason to not update it then or deliver it unless you do A, B, and C. So it needs to be in the contracts, in the information delivery manual, which Ariane is dealing with on a daily basis and the project basis. So I think it's like a combination of your information systems, your information requirements, your data, your processes, and also your contracts.
When the current period ends with the main contractors that are contracting by now, we start to put in the contract a new workflow with basically like file new incorporate IES in the new contracts? And do you use IC4 or 4.2? What's the
So
next step for your new contracts?
Yeah, we already have IC as part of the contract, in both the project phases and in the maintenance phase. The IDS and the DSCD, not so much yet, but we do have our own data model, that is not published yet in the DSCD, but we have our own tooling for that right now, that they have to deliver, or that follow. But we are looking for future contracts to look at all of the open ways of doing so. And I know with Ariel and a few other colleagues, we are looking into the IDS and making it part of the information delivery manual so that projects will start using it to check their models.
This also because we were talking about the leasing entities from airside stuff, of airport stuff, but you also have buildings, as you already told, regular buildings with concrete walls. And, can you use also BSD to do your information requirements for those objects too? So can you make something to the whole requirement into the BSD? You can guide your subcontractors to a certain part or certain sets from, so that it's easy for them to see what they have to deliver according to
We
your.
have it, as long as it's maintained by Schiphol Airport. And I know we've had the discussion last year with the railway room. So we do not own the railway at Schiphol Airport, but the model does include the staircase to the railway station. That's kind of a discussion point, because I cannot add the railway stuff to our information delivery manual or to our data model. But if the infra room or the railway room publishes theirs on the BSCD, then you can use different parts within your BIM model or parts of the BIM model based on the classification.
Maybe to add to that, I mean, this is the reason why we're here. I mean, this is also the reason why we try to elaborate and discuss with other domains. I mean, the issue of domains is only there in that particular domain, there is particular knowledge on particular parts. We have to bring it all together. Out there, entities or buildings don't look at, oh, it's owned by the airport domain, electrical domain, or whatsoever. No, it's one thing. So therefore, and that's a call for collaboration within buildingSMART, not outside, or with all the kind of fancy words. So it's in buildingSMART to work together, just to tell it to one another, and to bring it to a higher level. And it means to change the mentality. And then therefore I'm quite privileged to work for Schiphol. Schiphol is open in their thoughts. It's more or less a safe haven area, the same as Vienna. They share their information. And I think that's a mindset, it's a change, it's a paradigm shift, which everyone needs to work on. And it's difficult. I mean, I earn money with knowledge. But what is knowledge? If I only have it myself, I can't use it. I have to share it. If you share things, you get twice as much back. But it's a mentality. That's what we need to inherit from these kind of beautiful subjects. That was it. Thank you.
Final comment, if there's no other questions.
I don't know if there's questions on the audio one.
Sure.
I can't see it.
Thank you. Have you concluded?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to finalise by saying that it's quite obvious, I think, to everybody in this room, that this executive team of the airport domain is very knowledgeable, very articulate. They have got a great vision and great strategy, and they're really good at communicating this message. The team has just been strengthened by the arrival of Guangdong Airport Authority, so welcome. We know that this team is going to get even stronger. My message to you is if you want to be on this team, if you want to contribute your industry knowledge, if you want to be on the journey for digitization of the airport environment, then please just join buildingSMART and you can be on this executive committee. You can be part of this and put forward your requirements and work within the buildingSMART community to deliver outputs that are going to satisfy those requirements. So thank you very much, everybody. That was really, really good. Thank you.
Finish?
Oh,
This meeting finish?
they finished.
Thank you very much.
I cannot find it. It's not there.
Cannot find? Maybe.
It hasn't found it. It's not there. It's not there. It's not recognized. Oh, is it this one?
Okay, this one.
This one?
Yeah. This meeting is finished.
Hij wordt wel groot.
啊？别的他们在闲聊 ，discuss， 在讨论。The meeting is finished.
I haven't closed it, but
Break.
just 1 second.
Just a break.
I'm trying to find it.
Dit leuk, want die workflow die hebben we eigenlijk normaal gesproken dat we samen het kwam daarna.
It's still live online, so if you want. Sorry guys. There is a short presentation by GA. There's a small presentation. Okay.
Okay.
So you have to click for the next one.
Okay.
This is
Okay. Huh? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm great honor to be here. I'm Mali from GAA, Guangdong Airport Authority. At the BSI Spring Summit in March, we had some great discussion with airport domain members, and during which our Vice Commander Xue Hui Li gave a speech on GA's information and practice on BIM intelligence construction. We also participated in several mass meetings at the airport domain as well. On the day before yesterday, GAA has become a new SAC member. So I'm very great and I want to take this opportunity to extend heartfelt and thanks to all those who have supported us. Today, I want to give some advice. We, with nearly 30 years of the expansion of airport construction, our engineering is about, wait a moment. Our engineering construction about airport construction team in China that has returned for recent 20 years, having successfully led and more than 20 airport projects. And we joined the BSI SAC member. We are actively with the airport domain and possess the following action to enhance our collaborations. Firstly, we want to strengthen the BSS airport domain by creating technology staff from GAA. We are willing to lead the development of airport construction standards and technological research, and report our funding monthly. Second, we will promote our application of IFC in China as the leading unit designed by Civil Action Administration in China. We will invite the China's Airport Beam Alliance, enhancing IFC and evolutions in airport projects and laying a political foundation for the future updates. Then we will collaborate on the research topics in airport construction. With our executive experience, we will continue to share insights and partners with stakeholders on research related on beam-based diagonals, access construction, GIS, intelligence, and diagonal twins applications. Lastly, I sincerely thank the airport domain members for its support and assistance to Guangdong Airport Authority. We welcome all members to on-site visit our construction and operations. I look forward to deepening our exchange and collaborations. Thank you all.